What up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to another Warframe video. We're finally back with a top 10 list today. We're going to be telling you some weapons to look out for in the Primaries slot for the Sisters of Parvos update. There's going to be lots of context and lots of discussion. Now keep in mind, this list is subjective, of course. Certain weapons on here will definitely be very powerful, but, you might think, like, oh, I want to use this single target assault rifle more than these AoE, blaster guns, like the ones you're going over today. So keep that in mind. It's just to help you out, things to look out for, and this is not a comprehensive list of everything. There are certain weapons that will definitely slay out that we're not going to be talking about today, but I might briefly mention them in, the honorable mentions and stuff like that. Also, when we're talking about this list is entirely for the Steel Path. The Steel Path is basically a new game plus, where enemies have multiplied health, multiplied armor, etc., etc. So yeah, we're also going to be talking about these new mods briefly, because that's what the entire context of this video is about. These mods right here, if you haven't watched the previous videos, are going to be basically power crept mods you get from the arbitration store for 20 Vitus Essence each. For example, there's going to be Galvanized Chamber, 80% multi-shot, and then on kill you get 30% multi-shot. It will stack up to 5 times in the final build. That's over 200% multi-shot, guys. And then we're also getting the main important mods here, Galvanized Aptitude, Galvanized Savvy. These are condition overload for guns. Galvanized Aptitude is for rifles, and Galvanized Savvy is for shotguns. So it gives you 80% increased status chance, and on kill, 40% damage per status type affecting the target for 20 seconds. Stacks up to 2 times. So if you get 2 kills, it's 80% damage per status affecting the enemy. Those are things we'll be taking into account and valuing here. The things we value in this video list right here. Number 1, mob clearing speed. This is a horde shooter. You're trying to kill multiple enemies at once, or multiple enemies as quickly as possible. Also, status effects you can get out. Proc potential. That's because of these new condition overload mods. If you can get a bunch of procs to the enemy, it's going to be pretty valuable. Also, a thing that a lot of people might not take into account enough. Acolyte kill speed. Now, on the Steel Path, it's going to be 3 to 6 minutes, an Acolyte will spawn. These guys drop Steel Essence. And they're also going to drop the new Arcanes, because we're not really talking about the Arcanes too much. There's 3 of them. There's going to be one for reload speed, for AoE. It's called Arcane Merciless or something like that. There's going to be the Deadhead one, which is more precision focused for headshot kills, gives you a headshot multiplier increase. And there'll also be one with melee and gun combination. So let's get into it. Like I said, just because your favorite weapon's not on this list or the gun that you think is going to be really good, it's not a good weapon at all. There's certain weapons I specifically omitted from the list just because, they might be really good in a simulacrum, but in the grand scheme of things, they're not really speed clearing everything like you would hope. All right, so let's start with the honorable mentions. The Convectrix. This is a simulacrum god weapon. It shreds through enemies like they're nothing, and it is... Now here's the problem. Here's the problem with the Convectrix. When you're fighting an Acolyte, the Acolytes actually have a status cap on them. They cannot have more than 4 slash procs at a time, and this thing is all dependent on slash procs. But the problem is, it does very small slash procs. If you're fighting an Acolyte with slash procs, you want gigantic, big slash procs. You don't want small ones stacked up like this. So that's where the Convectrix gets hurt. It's also kind of a single target weapon. You could technically kill multiple enemies with it, but it's not going to be what you're really looking for here. Another really good one is the Phage. Similar to the Convectrix, a beam shotgun. Beam weapons are very good, and these multi-shot power crept mods is going to make beam weapons even stronger. We do have some beam weapons on this list, so yeah. And also, there's more. There's definitely more. Kuva Shakur, that. I could go on all day talking about good weapons here, but we're going to just stick to the list here. Let's start with number 10, the weakest on the list. Is not an honorable mention. It is the Comorex. Now, the reason the Comorex is really good, and by the way, keep in mind, all the footage in this video is going to have Arcane Avenger equipped, which will give you 45% increased additive damage, which I feel like is very valuable on using a primary in the Steel Path. And we're also using Sevagoth. Sevagoth's first ability will give the enemies a damage debuff. I really feel like you should be kind of going for the best stuff you can possibly go for, because you would do the same thing for melee if you're trying to use melee in a realistic Steel Path mission. So the thing about the Comorex here, it has 2 firing modes. It has the non-zoomed in mode. It's a sniper rifle. Now this is the reason this is low on the list, because sniper rifles are annoying to use. But the Comorex has a couple good things going for it. When it's fully zoomed in, it has an explosive shot. The explosive shot can proc viral in the area. So it has built-in viral. Another thing, the Comorex, the explosion shot, it responds very well to outside fire rate buffs. Because it's supposed to fire slow, but we can get around that by running vital acceleration on the build. So as far as grades on this, things you need to keep account. Since it has the built-in viral, you can do corrosive, viral, and heat. Technically, as well as with Hunter munitions, but it's very hard to fit all that stuff on the build. So I usually just go for corrosive and viral Hunter munitions on this build. We've got the built-in viral procs on the shot, and we've got the corrosive damage. Then you also throw in Hunter munitions. You can technically go a no elemental build for just pure Hunter munitions, but you see what I'm saying here. So, here's the grades we're going to give it. As far as killing hordes, it's actually not the best. It's actually going to get a B. So it's like A is the best, B is above average, but it's still not god tier. Proc potential is B because it doesn't do that many types of procs, but it does do very valuable procs, which is doing the viral and the corrosive if you build it the way I'm building it. And then as far as Acolyte killing, the Acolyte killing is actually pretty high. So I didn't have an Acolyte killing clip in there, but it can kill the Acolyte, especially if you go with a corrosive build like the one I'm showing on the screen. Keep in mind these Riven mods. You might want to go for increased like elementals because if you, like I said, if you want to fit everything on here, if you want to do a viral corrosive heat build, you're gonna need to find some way to fit that all on here because you definitely want to run fire rate, you definitely want to run Hunter munitions, and then I had to put elemental on my Riven to fit this all on here. And as far as the power crept mods you want to run on the Comorex, I'd say the increased crit chance on headshot one is gonna be really good. Additionally, the arcane that gives you, headshot multiplier will be very good as well. I mean, you're going to run the multi-shot one on every weapon, to be honest, but this will be a good one. That's number 10. It's definitely not the best, but because it's a sniper rifle, and then doing this in indoor missions is kind of cringe. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. So number 9, we've got the Verma Splicer Primary. Now this one is actually... the build I have on my Verma Splicer, I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. It's a max crit version. This is a new kit gun, well, new-ish kit gun, that comes from Deimos. Now, this is the max crit one, like I said, and these weapons have built-in toxin damage. Something you want to keep in mind when you are potentially running a kit gun on the new update. They have a PAX Arcane slot. They will also have a second Arcane slot if you unlock it with Steel Essence for the new Merciless Arcanes, the ones that will drop from Acolytes. So this has potential to run double arcanes, guys. Now, as you can see on the screen right here, it's chewing through the enemies relatively well. Then this is all double speed with Arcane Avenger, like I said. And when you see the ghost from Sevagoth go out, that means the enemies are taking increased damage. So yeah, you could technically go with a higher status version here to try and jam a little bit more heat damage, maybe get some more viral procs. The slash weighting on the Verma Splicer Primary actually is pretty high. And its Riven disposition is okay at this point. It's not god tier Riven disposition, but it's not bad Riven disposition. It's been buffed a couple times. The Rivens are pretty cheap, and it's basically an infested Amprex. This chaining is very good. As you can see, it's covering a huge area of enemies. And it's also got a decent kill time on the Acolyte as well. So I'd say it's not god tier, but it's a good, a reliable weapon. We're reloading it here, but if you want to use the PAX Charge Arcane, you will be not reloading it at all. It becomes a battery weapon with infinite ammo. You have to wait for it to recharge. So as far as mobbing potential, I'd say it's got a B as well, just like the Comorex. Maybe a little bit better than the Comorex. It'd be like a B plus if I was doing pluses. Proc potential is actually better than the Comorex. It's got, I'd call it A, honestly. It can do impact puncture slash, and then if you're running viral heat, it's going to give you viral heat as well. So very good, and remember, with Condition Overload, with the new multi-shot mods, this thing will be power crept a lot, because beam weapons respond very well to multi-shot buffs. And, Condition Overload, like lots of procs. Here's the Acolyte right here. See how he's not taking more than 4 heat procs? That's why small slash procs from things like the Convectrix are not going to be your friend there. So right here, this is now the build. I'll show you the build I have if you want it, but I'm going to build a hybrid version eventually. So you've got Verma Splicer, Pulmoris, and Splat. Max crit, not max damage, because I just want to see the Pulmoris grip in action. And it's got 39% crit chance. Here's the big problem. You won't be running all of these new mods because the primary or galvanized scope requires headshots. This thing does not really get headshots, guys. So you'll be running galvanized chamber, and you'll probably be running the Condition Overload mod in one of these slots. As you see, the Riven disposition is pretty high, 129% multi-shot with 2-stat and negative. And you could technically try to do something like the residual boils, where kills spawn a fire hive, but the thing is, if you want to run residual boils, it will increase your heat damage if you're running Theorem Verma or something like that, which is going to make it so... Oh, these Theorem Arcanes are so hard to remember the names of. Yeah, Theorem Demulsion, that's what it's called. So this one will give you increased heat damage if you're standing in the zone. It's going to eat 2 arcane slots, but you'll get technically a lot of extra heat damage. Might be something worth considering in the future, guys. All right, so that's number 9. Let's move to number 8. Now, this one actually is very valuable, in my opinion, because this Trumna right here does something the other weapons do not do. This thing guarantee one-shots the Acolyte. But there's some problems with this weapon. The proc potential is very low. The Trumna, I think, it's like a puncture and then heat. That's like its innate status effects. So if you're trying to go for condition overload, you might be a little bit disappointed, honestly. Yeah, it's got impact and heat. That's it. And then on the explosion, it's got just heat. So very low proc potential, but you get 5 kills with the Trumna. You fire off the secondary shot. It clears out a big group of enemies. So I'd say grouping on or mobbing on the Trumna. Let's say I'm gonna give it B potential on the Trumna, B plus, better than the previous 2 weapons. The proc potential is gonna be like honestly D. It's really really bad proc potential, but the Acolyte clear is S. It is probably the best Acolyte killing weapon on the entire list we've got here. And you might not run condition overload on this one or whatever it's called, galvanized aptitude or whatever. But you'll definitely run the other 2. Potentially galvanized scope. It's very easy to get headshots with this thing, and which will give you increased crit chance. Makes your firebomb just like easily one shot. There you go. Acolyte gone. If you don't want to use melee to kill these Acolytes, Trumna is going to be your best friend. But another big problem it has. This thing has terrible reload speed. So you might want to run that new Arcane, which will give you. It's going to be called Arcane Merciless or something like that. It will give you increased reload speed and increased damage on kill. So. Might want to try that one out. It's also going to give you increased ammo, but this one doesn't really care about ammo. So yeah, just power creep, split chamber, and maybe this is viral heat. Look at how low these procs are. Impact, heat, viral. That's 3 statuses. You'll be getting 80% per status on the enemy. That will be better than Serration, but you'll have to build up to it. So you might still run it anyway, just with 3 procs. But it's going to be up to personal preference. All right, moving on. Now, this is when it's going to be a guilty pleasure of mine just because I like this weapon. All right, the next one is the Shedu. Now, the Shedu might not be as good as the Trumna, to be honest, but the Shedu does have infinite ammo, has no ammo issues at all. It has good proc potential. It does, you can actually mod the Shedu lots of different ways because it's got, I think it's heat on the primary shot, and then the secondary shot has electric. Yeah, so it's got heat on the primary shot, electric on the secondary. When you empty the magazine, it has a forced impact proc in the area. So you can technically get like lots of stuff on here. My build right now is viral electric, viral heat, and you can get like corrosive gas. You can get all this stuff. So this thing will be very good with condition overload, honestly. One of the big problems with it is Prime Firestorm does not work on this thing for some reason. But yeah, it's got infinite ammo. It can stagger enemies in the area. If you're slowing them with Sethargoth's Gloom, they'll be stunned and slowed, basically becoming useless. And yeah, so as far as the grades for the Shedu, it depends. Remember, everything in here is with a Rivet. I'd say it has like decent mob clearing, like either C or B. Proc potential is going to be, depending if you're running Hunter Munitions or not, it will be either C or B. It's definitely not a top tier procer. We have other weapons on this list that are top tier procers. And the Acolyte clear is pretty average as well. I'd probably go with like a B average or a B Acolyte clear with this weapon, just because if you mod it for, you can technically mod it for corrosive and gas, but with condition overload, this thing I think will pull away a lot. 3 or 4 procs. That's a big chunk of extra damage. To be about 320% damage. That's pretty good. It's definitely over double Serration currently. So and it's got decent status, got decent crit. It technically works against sentience, but I don't know. Depending on how many sentients are in the new war, whenever we get that, I don't think it will, because you'll probably still use melee. Here's the thing about all this stuff: you're still going to use melee on these guys. I think this Limbo Acolyte screws me actually, but Limbo Acolyte kind of annoying to be honest. I died to him to be honest. Okay, you can kill him. You just it's nice to have those abilities on Sethargoth up. The Shedu might just be a guilty pleasure I decide to include because I like it. Alright, so moving on to the next one. I know that the Shadow gameplay went on for a while. The next one is going to be... Now, these next couple are actually kind of like up in the air which one is really the best. But let's go over the Kuva Brahma. Yes, this thing is the old faithful. It's been in the game for like, I don't know, like a year at this point. It just blows stuff up, dude. It's an explosive bow. If you run... Now, if people are like, oh, it has an ammo issue. It does not have an ammo issue. If you watch any of my Brahma videos, I never run out of ammo for the Brahma, ever. And the elemental I'd recommend to you on the Kuva Brahma is a radiation roll, because you can get radiation and corrosive, and technically heat as well. And if you want to do a corpus slaying setup, it's going to be radiation toxin. And since certain robotic enemies on the corpus resist toxin damage, having radiation for them is actually pretty good. But you can usually just one-shot them with toxin anyway. So yeah, this is actually just going to be a no 100 radiations build right here that we're rocking. By the way, this is all on the steel path, because of course it is. And as far as the grades for the Kuva Brahma, it's really good. Its mobbing is A or S. Its proc potential is low at C, might even be D, because it doesn't proc that much, but you're killing stuff outright, so who even cares? And its Acolyte clear is A. Very excellent Acolyte clearing on this Kuva Brahma, as long as you mod it for corrosive, because the Acolytes are weak to corrosive. That's why some of these builds in this video might seem like, oh, you're not killing the Acolyte very fast. It's probably because I'm running Viral on the build for like either Viral Hunter Munition setup, or like a Viral Electric setup, or Viral Heat. Yeah, if you want to specifically kill Acolytes, mod for corrosive, because that's what they're weak to. But yeah, the Brahma, you use the Vigilante supplies, you never run out of ammo. You can use those the new Arcane. Arcane Merciless will give you you'll have it constantly up with the Brahma, because you're getting like 4 or 5 kills per shot easily. And if you want to run 100 predictions for better scaling, you technically could do that as well. Most elements for the Brahma are good. I have both a Toxin Brahma and a Radiation Brahma, and I used to have a Heat Brahma when gas damage was actually good. Now that gas damage is bad, I just run the Radiation Brahma basically all the time. So the Acolyte does not last very long when you have this weapon equipped, as you can see here. 3 shots and he's dead, and yeah, it's got damage fall off, all that stuff. If you want to run the Kuva Brahma, I'd say maybe instead of Arcane Avenger, try running Arcane Acceleration to just spam it even more. And you still will not run out of ammo, so good for you. So yeah, the Brahma is, I think it's like number 5 on the list. It could easily be number 1, depending on, the way you're playing. So this is the build I have right here. Remember, everything in this video has a ribbon. You could definitely run Hunter Munitions Viral. It's not like it's hard to do that. And if you think that Prime Firestorm's not worth your time, you can just put Hunter Munitions right there, or you can put a Bane mod, or whatever. It's very customizable and very strong. Alright, moving on to the next one. Now, putting this above the Brahma felt kind of dirty, to be honest. But we're going to show it anyway. It's the Proboscis Cernos. Person that always says I say things wrong in the comments, there you go. That's your gem for today. The Proboscis Cernos. It's the tentacle bow. It's really good. It has not a lot of crit, but this thing, I believe it has built-in Viral. So you can make Viral, Corrosive, and Heat, which is, really, really godly. But I think this thing actually comes from the Clan Dojo, so really good. Yeah, it's got built-in Viral. So if you mod for Viral Heat on this thing, I don't think you're really, utilizing its strengths properly. So, yeah, the tentacles pull enemies in together, and after a couple of moments, it explodes, dealing a big chunk of damage in the area. And it doesn't have much crit, like I said, but the funny thing is it doesn't even need it, because the combination of Viral, Corrosive, and Heat all mixed together is so much debuffing, the enemies don't even stand a chance. Now here we get the orange crit cat buff, which is not normal, but as you can see, if this thing had a ton of crit chance, look at how disgusting it would be. It's still disgusting without it. So yeah, let's go over the grades for the Proboscis Cernos. Its mob clearing is honestly very good. I'd probably go with A or B. Its proc potential is A, very good. These are the good procs we want. We want Corrosive, we want Viral, we want Heat. And its Acolyte clearing, honestly, pretty good. I'm going to go with a B. If it had crit, it would probably be like a top tier Acolyte clearer. And yeah, I do highly recommend this to you guys. If you don't have it already, I don't know if I'd say it's better than the Brahma, but I did put it above the Brahma on the list for some reason. So that must mean that it's a pretty hard decision for a lot of people. And then Limbo spawns in. Limbo's pretty annoying. Any clip in this video with Limbo in it is just going to be possibly me dying. Because, honestly, if Limbo spawns, just use melee. Quit pretending that primaries are viable. Just use melee if Limbo spawns in. No one will see it besides you and me. It's alright, it's alright. We did technically kill Limbo, better than the Shedu did. And I got the cat buff. That must mean it's double as good as the Shedu, right? But as you can see, lots of tentacles, lots of death, lots of fun for you and me and the whole family. And here's the build. Like I said, multi-shot ribbon. With these low disposition ribbons, multi-shot's gonna be one of your best stats. We've got Heat on here. And with 120% stash chance, it can be very nice. The explosion is the one with the built-in viral. So corrosive, viral, heat, and then corrosive and heat on the tentacles and all that. It's really, really good, guys. I would say run a fire rate mod, but you don't technically need to run a fire rate mod if you want to just run like more elementals in that slot or whatever you want to do. All right, and let's move on to the last two. So these are the big three. Like I almost spoiled the next one. Next one. Now here, this one's grading is actually a little bit strange, and it's going to be mostly dependent on that Acolyte status stacking thing I was telling you about earlier. It's the Phantasma. Now you're like, hey, why is the Convectrix not on here? Well, the Convectrix is definitely more single target than the Phantasma is. This thing is Revenant's signature shotgun, and it does not orange crit very often, like in the video right now. This was just me with a cat buff, but what the Phantasma does is it's actually, you have to do a very specific build on this. You want to weight the heat the highest on the entire build, and what it lets you do is it lets you just AoE heat proc everything. It has infinite enemy corpse punch through, and it's got very, very high stash chance. Technically has an alt fire that shoots an explosive out, but that's not what we're focusing on here. We're focusing on the primary shot. As long as the enemies are in front of us, it's just basically melt that hallway down. Now, like I said, everything in this video has Arcane Avenger, so we're getting more crit chance than we normally should. The Phantasma has 3% crit chance and a 1.5 crit multiplier. A crit build is not viable, but hey, since we got the Avenger on here, I'll take the 1.5 multiplier of damage. Sure, that's fine with me. Now, the mobbing for this thing is honestly A or S tier. As you can see, these Steel Path Grenadier are getting melted like they're freaking popsicles. The proc potential is C. It could be better, but, you know, we only care about heat procs, really. If this thing is Condition Overload, guys, oh my gosh. Like, they are going to be popsicles in the middle of the desert, honestly. So, yeah. I actually, no, C proc potential is a lie. It's more like A or B, because you can see, like, it has so much stash chance. Once this thing gets the Condition Overload mod, it gets the Power Creep, Hell's Chamber, like, Galvanized Chamber, guys, the heat proc's going to be stupid. It's going to be really stupid. If you want to get a god roll for this thing, I'd say you want to get heat on your Riven, you want multi-shot, and either fire rate or status chance. Magazine size is okay too, but yeah, this thing is terrible against Acolytes. If you're going to be using the Phantasma, make sure you have an Acolyte clearing weapon. Like look at this terribleness. Because she only has 4 heat procs, and we're overloading these enemies with heat procs, which is why they're dying so fast. But when the Acolyte's like, yo, only 4, it's like, okay, well, I have this Guandao Prime, so let's just use that instead. Yeah, remember, melee will still be the best, but hey, we're having some fun talking about some primaries today. So really good stuff there. Like I said, you want to make sure the heat is the highest. That might require 2 to 3 heat mods on your build. If I had like multi-shot, stash, chance, heat, minus slash, that would be godly because this thing has no slash innately. Yeah, right here, 97 heat, 31 radiation, 55 corrosive, and then 15 impact. You want to have the heat the highest, guys. It's very, very important because you only need either 10 corrosive procs, 10 viral procs. The corrosive build is actually better than the heat build, or better than the viral build, I've noticed, on this weapon. And you just want everything else to be heat, because heat overload is disgusting for the enemies. All right, moving on to the top 2. The Phantasma is really, really good. As long as you have a weapon to kill the Acolyte, it's really, really good. The next one, I think, might be better than the Phantasma, though, because it can also kill the Acolyte. It's the Bubonico. Okay, it's the Bubonico. Don't tell anyone. It's the Bubonico. It's the infested arm cannon that comes from the clan dojo. This thing also can do the almighty corrosive, viral, and heat. This combination of elements debuffs enemies to the max, also makes them take some damage over time. And yeah, this thing can slay Acolytes like they're weaklings. They're weaklings. I wanted to say something that was not appropriate for YouTube, but we're not going to do that today. Yes, the alt fire has very high stash chance and a very high crit multiplier technically, and the primary shot is crit focused. You know, to get headshots. I think this thing will proc. Honestly, whatever arcane you use on this thing, it's going to be really easy. If you want to use the AoE one, it's got infinite ammo because it's an arm cannon. This thing is godly. It is better than Shedu, honestly. As a Shedu lover, I hate to say it, this thing's probably better than Shedu. And it's actually a lot easier to get than the Shedu too, because it comes from the clan dojo. It has a little bit of a problem with mobbing, but it's honestly good enough. Once we get like some more multi-shots, some more stash chance, some more, maybe not even fire. Now here's the thing, these weapons, some of these weapons have downsides. The fire rate and the reload speed are not getting buffed at all. Like technically the fire rate's getting buffed a little bit with the arcane, if you put that one on there. But yeah, the fire rate's not. The reload speed is getting a little bit of a buff if you use that arcane. So as far as mobbing and all that stuff for the Bubonico, mob clear I go with a C or a B. Proc potential A. It's very, very good proc potential. And then acolyte clearing, it's either a B or an A, depending, keep in mind, that entire footage right there was with a negative damage Grenier Riven. So those guys are taking a lot less damage than they should have. But yeah, as you can see here, the secondary shot, Viral Corrosive Heat, very, very good procs. There's impact on there too. And then the primary shot's got puncture, slash, all this stuff. Very good at cleaving through enemies. And if we get some more multi-shot in here, we get some more condition overload, some all that kind of stuff, expect it to be very, very deadly. With Avenger, that secondary shot's going to have I think it's like a base 3x crit multiplier. This is also with no prime ravage, by the way. Yeah, 3.5 crit multiplier on the secondary shot, unmodded, guys. So it's going to potentially be really, really powerful. 6.7 multiplier if you put prime ravage on there. So yeah, you can see how strong that could potentially be with the right Riven, with the right setup. And now let's get into the last one. Now, a lot of people might be like, why is this the best one on the list? Well, let me tell you. The fact we're getting condition overload for guns, the Cedo is going to have triple condition overload, okay? This thing has the most proc potential of the entire game. It does heat, electric, cold, and toxin, and then it has the modded stuff on there as well with the secondary shot. The only problem with the Cedo is that it's basically single target for killing enemies. The glaive launcher it's going to be procking everywhere and everything with a bunch of procs. But yeah, when you start killing stuff, it's gonna be it's gonna one-shot nearly every enemy. But you gotta get headshots with it. It will get those headshots pretty easily. So getting an increased headshot multiplier with this thing from the Deadhead Arcane might be worth it. Yeah. Let's go over the potential of the Cedo. Like I said, you could put nearly any of these weapons at number 1, but I'm gonna go with Cedo because this thing has built-in condition overload already, guys, and we're actually getting a condition overload mod for shotguns. So expect it to just be god tier. It slays acolytes. It slays the Greniers. Okay, we're going to be a little bit... I wanted to go a little bit buck wild today, but we're not going to, okay? Maybe next video. Yeah, very, very good. It was so good, the clip lasted a minute. The only problem with this thing is the reload is a little bit rough. I mean, I do have a negative reload Riven, which might be part of it. But yeah, look out for this thing being godly. I didn't forget about it. I know a lot of people might have forgot about it. It's so good. It's really so good. It stuns the enemies with the heat procs. The glaive stuns them all over the place. And if you run Avenger, dang, just dang. Let's show the build real quick. Now, like I said, there's lots of ways to do this. You could even go for a purely condition overload procer build, and it would do good damage. We're running tactical pump and all this stuff. It's got low Riven disposition currently, but yeah, I could see it being god tier in the future. You probably put the Power Creep Hell's Chamber here. You put condition overload in this slot. You might even run the new galvanized projectile speed mod in the Exilus slot, just because, it makes the glaive fly faster. And unfortunately, there's no crit chance mod for shotguns on here, but, that's why you're running Avenger, maybe running a godly Cedo Riven like that. And yeah, guys, I hope you found this video helpful. Just get the juices flowing. I'd say, like I said, any of these could be flexible to another slot or higher, lower, whatever. It's more of just things to look out for. And there's plenty of weapons I did not mention in the video, either intentionally or just because it's only a top 10 list, not a top 20 list. The Mutalist Cernos was going to be on there, but like I said, that proc amount reducer on the Acolytes killed it because this thing does so many procs, so many toxin procs. Them only having 4 maximum really kills it. The Fulman's really good too, with internal bleeding for forced slash procs, but for condition overload, this thing does not proc much status chance, or doesn't have much status chance, so it kind of hurt it in the long run. Could still be really good. The Kuva Comb is going to be on here as well. The Kuva Comb has a gigantic ammo issue when you're fighting lots of enemies, so that hurt it in the long run too. And things like the Exceltra, it might be better. I'm holding my breath on it. And the Astilla Prime also. Lots of weapons that could be good, guys. So yeah, we'll see the update hopefully coming out next week. Hopefully you found this video helpful. Thanks for all the support, guys. It really means a lot, and I'll see you next time. Peace!